wasn't feeling okay.
Hello everybody, I introduce my friend Ana Catalina Valdez and myself, Brenda Basurto. We are students from the 8th semester of foreign trained in FACPyAP of the UANL. We've prepared this material to talk to you about the FOB Incoterm for our Incoterms class final project. This Incoterm can only be used for sea or inland waterway transport. The free on board Incoterm means that the seller fulfills his obligation to deliver when the goods have passed over ship's rail at the named port of shipment. This means that the buyer has to bear all costs and risks of loss or damage to the goods from that point, and it is required for the seller to clear the goods for export.
So how it works the FOB on practice? Let's suppose that you are a big exporter company. Your main product is dehydrated nopal, and you want to send your product to Casablanca, Morocco. Now, imagine that your buyer and you have already gone through the process of submitting budget, the price negotiation, and the contract formalities. Your client has agreed to buy a ton of the product. The first thing by your client to do is to pay the price for the product, as provided in the contract of sale. You have to provide the goods and notice by electronic message the commercial inbox to the buyer. Also, you need to do the necessary arrangement in order to proceed to the exportation of your product, as well as your client. He needs to do the same by his side, meaning that he must arrange all licenses, authorizations, and formalities regarding to the importation of his product.
Blah 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 blah.
You are not obligated to sign up a contract of carriage nor insurance. However, it is highly recommended to get an insurance one. By his side, your client must contract at his own expense for carriage of the goods from the named port of shipment, and he needs to name a port of delivery in his country, stipulating the date of delivery whenever he gets ready with all these formalities. You need to be aware of whatever he needs about any kind of information and, of course, support him about it. At this point, you are ready to deliver the goods in the named port. The goods are still your responsibility. You bear all risks of loss or damage to the goods until they have passed the ship's rail at the named port of shipment. When it happens, your client takes all risks of loss or damage to the goods on his own of whatever it happens to the goods since they get on board, while the overseas trips, and so on till the buyer gets his merchandise on site. From side to side, you pay all costs related to the goods and its exportation formalities, and the buyer pays all duties, taxes, and other official charges, as well as the costs of carrying out the formalities payable upon importation and transit of the goods.
You need to keep your client informed while the entire process, so you must give him sufficient notice that the goods have been delivered on board. As we say so, within the sale contract terms, your client must give you sufficient notice of the vessel name, loading point, and required delivery time. Because of the distance between you and your client, you may agree to communicate electronically and do an electronic data interchange. This is because you must notice a proof of delivery, transport document, or whatever be needed, for example, a negotiable bill of lading, and non-negotiable seaway bill, an inland waterway document, or a multimodal transport document. Your client must accept the proof of delivery you provide. While the achievement process, you have to pay the cost of those checking operations, such as checking quality, measuring, weighing, counting, which are necessary for the purpose of delivering the goods. You also must provide at your own expense packaging, which is required for the transport of the goods to the extent that the circumstances relating to the transport are made known to the seller before the contract of sale is concluded. packaging is to be marked appropriately. You better supervise all process and forms.
As mentioned before, you must render the buyer at the largest request, risk, and expense every assistance in obtaining any documents or equivalent electronic messages issued or transmitted in the country of shipment or of origin that the buyer require for the import of the goods and when necessary. In a few words, you must provide the buyer, upon request, with the necessary information of the process and for procuring insurance. Your client has to pay in case there emerge a pre-shipment inspection unless the inspection is mandated by the authorities of your country. The buyer must also pay all costs and charges incurred in obtaining the documents or equivalent electronic messages and reimburse to you those incurred in rendering his assistance in accordance therewith.
I guess I wasn't feeling okay. I felt that space and time went back and forth and sideways. I'm putting out fires all over the place. I guess it knocked me sideways. Oh, she made me go uppercase and underline. We are as prickly as a couple of porcupines.